This episode is being brought to you by Diesel Fuel Prints. Diesel Fuel has been in the sticker business since 1991, and he's been printing all my stickers since the early 2000s. DieselFuelPrints.com always uses the highest quality weatherproof material, full color printing. 125 black and white stickers starts at just $25, and easy online ordering at DieselFuelPrints.com will get you a quote on a sticker of any shape and size you can think of. Shipping's always free, and listeners of this show will get a 10% discount if they use the promo code AWP 2021. So go check out Diesel Fuel for your sticker needs. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. I'm your host, Mike Fisher, and today's guest is Esben Willems of the Swedish band Monolord. Monolord is like a doom stoner band, but they're a lot more than that. And Esben talks a little bit about how each member of the band is very different, and they bring different influences to their sound, which allows them to kind of create in a broader, less genre specific style. And, you know, it's really cool to hear him talk about the band and how they got going. We talk quite a bit about their album cover art and how they make select decisions about what, images they're going to use for their album covers. Really great conversation. We talk about music and kind of a little bit of the state of the world, what's going on with their new record that comes out on October 29th on Relapse Records. Great conversation. Esben is a super nice guy, very funny guy. We're friends online. He's a funny dude. You can find all of the information about Monolord in the description below. They have a heavy online presence, and you can find all the information about this podcast down below, the Patreon, links to the website, the merch, all that kind of stuff. We have buttons and shirts and all that stuff. And I appreciate all the support I get from everybody all the time. And it's really humbling, as I'm so always often saying. I'm going to get you right to the episode. Shout out to Daniel Hall of Riding Easy Records for hooking me up with Esben and Monolord. He is their manager, and Daniel's a friend of the show, and I always appreciate the things he does for me. And, you know, we've become friends over the last year when he was on the podcast. So shout out Daniel. Thank you very much. And let's get right to the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back. Today's guest, as I said up front, is Esben Willems from the band Monolord from Sweden. You guys are from Gothenburg, Sweden, right?
I live in Gothenburg. The other guys live just outside of Gothenburg. Mika's from Finland. I'm from Denmark.
Okay.
We're Gothenburg-based, kind of.
When I saw Mika's name, I was like, oh yeah, he must be Finnish.
He is.
My last band, we did a little touring with Rotten Sound, and we did a full European tour with Unkind from Sweden. So I'm familiar with the Unkind from Finland. I'm sorry. So I'm familiar a little bit with the Finns. And I was telling you, I do so much work for like Swedish bands that, like, you know, we're starting this. It's like evening in your time and it's morning in my time. And I'm used to like working all day and like sending work to Sweden at the end of the day, and then getting up the next morning and getting the email replies back about what needs to be changed, and like rinse and repeat over and over.
Oh yeah. Recognize that. Absolutely.
So Monolord is a band that, I wasn't really familiar with you guys, but on Spotify I would play, like I'd be playing, Electric Wizard radio or something, and then like your songs would come on, and like every time for a while I was like, I'd have to check and be like, who is this? Like, this is so good. And then after a little bit of time I was like, and then I just like, and then it started with Rust, like that record for the last like 3 years. It just probably got played as much as any other record by any band around my art studio. I absolutely love that record. And then I was excited to see you guys kind of switch to Relapse and, like, you know, go up a notch, you know, Not that there's anything wrong with riding easy, but if we get a chance to get on a label like Relapse, that's always a good, it's always a good sign that you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. It is. Absolutely.
And you guys have a new record coming out in October on Relapse.
That's right. Yeah, it's hard to summarize an album always, but it feels really good. It feels so good to finally make something out of the void that this pandemic has been, actually. And for once, we had so much time to work on it, which has been just beautiful. And we've had the same situation like most bands, that we have to, within the spaces in between tours, we have to kind of create an album, rehearse it, and then record it, and then capture the vibe and the mood of these songs, which we haven't even tried live yet. That's the regular way it goes, which is kind of feels kind of weird. And then you do a couple of tours, and then a year or two on, the songs finally sets, and you feel like this is the way we wanted to record them. And we could do that now. Actually, we could do that. So it felt like it felt like we've toured on these songs when we went into the recording process, and it was so relaxing. It's hard to describe how good that felt and how inspiring that felt.
Yeah, and you have your own recording studio now, so you recorded everything in-house as well, so that's got to also be a lot more comfortable to not have the restrictions of we're on somebody's budget clock here.
We've actually never been on anyone's budget except for the No Comfort. That was the first time we went into a traditional recording studio. Everything before that was recorded in our previous rehearsal space, which was just insanely small. So we had no time pressure at all, just the pressure of just trying to make something bearable out of working in this tiny box. So yeah, it was amazing being able to spend all this time in my new space, which I just took over in the turn of the year in January. So this was the first production there. So we spent 4 weeks recording. It was like seas of time for us. Just going to the studio and, another week recording. This is insane. It was beautiful.
That's great. That's always good. Yeah, I was fortunate with my last band. Our drummer had a recording studio, and so we were able to kind of do the same thing. And it's always better than, I would say that there's something to be said for leaving your comfort zone and going into a studio, because it's a totally different feeling, just being somewhere else, because we record kind of like what you were saying, we recorded in our rehearsal space was also the recording studio. So it was there was something to be said for being comfortable, but at the same time, when you move out of your comfort zone, sometimes you get something different too,
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's all about finding that balance. Yes, absolutely.
You guys released a single from the new record called The Weary, which is it's super killer. It's so good. Thank you. I really like the video for it too. It was really cool and artsy and interesting video. But
nice.
It has a little bit of a political feel to the lyrics of it, as I understand. Yeah, it's a little bit. It's about environmentalism and things like that. A little bit.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. Like it's always been. Actually, it's nothing new for us. It's been a constant in everything we do. Basically, it's kind of the misanthropy, kind of framing the sometimes disgust even for humanity, the way we just destroy everything, and we just don't stop. And we see it. We were just standing in a sea of fire. Oh, it's burning. Nice. let's change nothing and just move on.
Who's got the gasoline?
Exactly. So I mean, these albums and this music we make, it's been partly a safety valve in sorts.
Sure.
Just this being able to to articulate that frustration. And same thing with The Weary, and same thing with this album. Kind of the title is about that. At least it is for me.
What's the title of the album?
Your Time to Shine, as in we're basically fucked. So it's really, it's mine, it's our time to shine. We really seriously need to step up, and we are not stepping up at all. We're saying we're stepping up, but we're not, and we really should. So that's kind of the theme of the album, as always.
Yeah, you mentioned. You mentioned a little bit, like, it's a valve, right? It's like it's a release valve. And I think that for like kind of all of us who listen to, I would call underground music, like, punk rock and extreme metal, doom metal, all that kind of stuff. That's what it is, right? I mean, that's kind of what it's always been its best factor, is that it allows you to, whether you're making that type of music or whether you're listening to that kind of music, it allows the music to express things that are causing you, stress in real issues or even personal issues. It's like a nice release valve to help take some of the pressure off, so you don't just, melt.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's maybe why the extreme music bands are just the kindest people. It's just like the kindest, sweetest, softest people. You get it all out on stage and on the albums. It's like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, that's been brought up a couple times on the show with other people, because, like, my wife, but when we first met and started dating, she didn't have a lot of experience with extreme metal and extreme, like hardcore and stuff like that. And so she was like a little intimidated at first, just because it, it's like, it looks a certain way, right? And then
yes.
And then, like, within like a few months, she was like, all of your friends are the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life. I'm like, yeah. She's like, all those guys in Exhumed, I was like totally afraid. Like, they were like chainsaws and blood all over their album covers, and they're the sweetest people I've ever met.
Yeah. That's it. That is it.
Yeah, and that is the thing, in all the time that I've been involved in like the extreme music scene, it's like, the amount of people who I would consider to be assholes. It's like, I could count them on like one hand, It's like most everybody's super cool, and everywhere you go, and it doesn't matter what country you go to or what continent you're on, it's kind of the same always everywhere, which is amazing. It's provided me with an amazing life,
I agree. Same for me. And I think the same goes for the crowd as well, because the vibe is always so kind and warm, which feels kind of weird words to say about this music and the shows, but that's the feeling. I mean, meeting fans after shows is always it's comforting, actually.
Yeah, for sure. You guys, the band started like in the mid 2010s, like 2012, 2013, somewhere around there.
2013 kind of faded into existence. Yeah, that's right. As a side project to a previous band Thomas and I had. And this was when we jammed in that band. It was kind of this kind of music was, we always gravitated towards that for some reason. And the band was kind of a status quo boogie rock band. Had nothing to do with this at all. And then all of a sudden there was a collection of songs, and we made some demos, and we felt like this is too good to just be a side project. And we got in touch with Daniel on Riding Easy, and he wanted to release it, and we recorded it, and it was just like, it just exploded. And just before that, just in the process of beginning to, okay, we have an album, we don't really have a band, and we met Mika and on bass, and it kind of just, it all fell into place. and we recorded the album almost immediately after that, and yeah, just took off. It was really fast. But yeah, that was the start of it.
I get that. When something's good, it professional musicians making something that's good, it's pretty obvious pretty quick. That was the Empress Rising material.
Correct. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, like I was saying, like I kind of jumped on it during, when Rust was out, and one of the things about that record, like I was saying, like once I figured out who you guys were, because I kept hearing it, and then like I looked up and I saw the album cover, and I was like, wow, this is like exactly my thing. Like it's got like the interesting art and it's like, because the art for the cover is like just two like rusted cars just implanted into the ground, like monoliths. And it's like, it's not stereotypical of like stoner doom stuff. And I always really love that when the art for a band is a little off from what you would expect, and it was like, I know one of the things for me was like when Nazem's Human 2.0 came out, and the art was so not a grindcore art, and that was like same kind of feeling where it's like, well, it really catches my attention when bands make a move like that, and so that was like another big thing with your guys' record.
We've always tried that, actually, both in artwork and in lyrics and in basically anything. We like what we do, but we try to avoid the genre labels and whatever labels that are put on us. That's not us putting them there at all. It's just like we I think we found our voice on the first album already. It's like this is our sound, but that's not necessarily just the sound, this doomy, dark, heavy stuff. It could be anything, and we just let it evolve and try to be open-minded with it. And that's an ongoing process that's still going on today, which feels liberating, working that way, not being confined within, these are the genre borders. You should do this within these two walls, and if you don't, it's incorrect, and you're not true, whatever. Which is, it's so boring. That's not music.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Music is music.
I agree. Yeah, the strict, like gatekeeping genre stuff. Like the older I get, the more I dislike that kind of stuff. It's like,
same for me.
Yeah,
bored me, actually.
Yeah, one of the nice things I have noticed also in a similar kind of way is like a lot of the festivals are less genre specific and are having wider. Like, it's not just like, you're going to go see like 20 death metal bands, 10 black metal bands and 2 doom metal bands. It's like, like the festivals used to be. Now it's like, I don't know if they're doing that in Europe, but in the States, it's like, you could see Cannibal Corpse and the Foo Fighters on the same festival,
Yeah, I see a bit of the same here, actually, and I like it. I agree with you, because I don't want to go see 10 grindcore bands. I love grindcore, but I don't want to see 8 hours of it. If I go to a festival, I want to discover new stuff, and I want to experience things from all over the place. That's wisely curated, so it fits, of course, but yes, I like it too. I agree.
Yeah, the Psycho Las Vegas Festival is a really, really good job of that. Have you guys ever played that?
We did, and I saw Tina Riven there, and they blew me away in just that way. I mean, saw a lot of heavy bands, and then I saw them. It was like,
who was that?
This is insane. Tina Riven. They're from. Oh fuck, I forget.
Yeah, I don't know them.
Central Africa.
Cool.
It's insanely good. It blew me away. It really did. And them in that context might have feel a bit off. It's like on fire, and here's Tina Riven, but it worked so beautifully. They really fit in, so it was the perfect fit. So I agree.
Yeah,
great job.
That is really the Psycho Las Vegas Festival is like, it's so good like that. Like we just went, last month, and which was interesting during the pandemic because we found that there were a couple of the smaller like rooms where we weren't comfortable at all. We're like, this doesn't seem right. So we kind of hung out in the big arena and the outdoor area as much as we could to just try to stay as safe as we could. But, get to see, it's like, you can see Danzig and then you can see a band like Twin Temple, or you can, Thievery Corporation played, and I wasn't super familiar with them. I remember them from like the 90s, like they're definitely a different type of band that you wouldn't expect to see, and they were fantastic, like it was cool to see some like kind of acid jazz weird, and then and then you get to see Cannibal Corpse.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Totally. Yeah. And Mastodon, they were in the arena and they just absolutely, they were so good. They were so good. They're like one of those bands that gets like a weird rap for starting one way and kind of turning into a different type of band. And they're just so good. Like how could anybody care?
Yeah, I agree. And it's that's a part of what they do also.
Definitely.
The turning and finding new ways, and I love that.
Yeah, for sure, man. So we were talking a little bit about like you guys are gonna be touring on this new record, and you're doing a lot of Europe and a lot of the United States too, and you have Blackwater Holy Light out with you guys in Europe, yeah?
Yes, that's right. And Firebreather in US.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Firebreather. I need to check them out.
Yes, you should. Amazing people. They've toured with us twice before.
Oh, wow.
From Gothenburg.
Okay.
Yeah, just great. Trio as well. It's just riff-driven powerhouse music. It's great. I love it.
Sounds like music for me.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you're bringing a Swedish band to the States and an American band to Europe.
Yes. Why make it easy, right?
Well, I mean, I understand the concept of, I mean, I think it is when you're a headlining band and you can headline a tour, I think there's a tiny bit of responsibility to take another band with you that you want your fans to get to know. And, if you're bringing a band from Sweden to America and vice versa, well, that's going to help those bands be exposed in a live environment that they might not necessarily be involved in. And I think that's super awesome. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Hopefully it is. Yeah. But I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at the end of that tour when you get to LA for sure. Yeah. I'll be there for that for sure. Yeah.
It's going to be great. Yes. Nice.
Yeah. Were you connected to Daniel and Riding Easy, did you just like send the demo and he was interested, or how did you guys get connected with Daniel? Because I know he's still your manager, even though you guys are no longer on the label, correct?
That's right. So the first, that was basically it. Actually, Thomas, he got in touch with Daniel. He sent some demos. Daniel said, "Please send more. I like this," and we sent more. And he said, "I want to release it," and that was it. That was really it. It was really basic. We had some music he liked. We wanted to work with him, and we did, and it just took off from there. So it was the beginning of it was really it just basically happened, and we really liked working with Daniel. So when our contract was ending on Riding Easy, we both we and he felt like we'd outgrown Riding Easy Records. But we liked working with Daniel, so we continued with him as a manager instead, and went to Relapse as a label. So that's why and how we still work with Daniel.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's become a friend of mine. It's like I was always a fan of the record label and like all the stuff that he was doing, and then I asked him to be on the podcast, and he was on, and we totally like connected, like we clicked really well. And then
nice.
When we were in Vegas last month, we hung out a lot, and he's a good dude. I like that guy a lot, and we don't live that far from each other. And we have like exactly the same taste in cars. Like it's like there's a lot of stuff we have in common. Yeah, he's a good dude. And you know, one of the things I didn't know about him at the time was that in the States for a number of years, the car company Scion did these shows and festivals where they would just like, you know, be like little showcases and they were sponsored by the car company. And I always really loved them because they would have my friends' bands play, you know, and it was one of the few times in the United States where bands got treated like a real band, you know, like extreme bands would get treated like a real band and not like, you know, sleeping in the van, like, oh, we got a hotel and it's all paid for. And, you know, we're going to get food and like all that kind of stuff. And so I was I actually respected that Scion stuff. And then when I was talking to Daniel Moore, I learned that him and his wife were the ones who were responsible for, you know, putting that stuff on, and just made me appreciate him even more because the Scion stuff was really cool that they did.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that episode.
Oh, wow.
It was great. Yeah,
okay.
Great conversation. Loved it.
That's awesome. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Like, it's funny because like sometimes I'm doing this and people clearly have never listened to the podcast, and that's totally fine. I don't care at all. You know what I mean? Like I understand. And then sometimes I'm talking to somebody and they're like, they've listened to every episode. I'm like, oh wow. Okay.
Nice.
Thank you. So aside from Monolord, and you said that you were in another band with Thomas when you guys kind of started doing this stuff, what have you been in other like recording bands in Sweden, like over the years? Anything that I may have heard of before? Monolord?
Nothing you may have heard of. No, not at all. So Monolord is the first band for any of us that took off outside of Sweden at all. Yeah. I played in the band just before that. Just before the band with Thomas, I played in another band, post-rock band called De La Mancha, that had kind of a budding success in Germany a little bit, but no, not really. It was a few short tours, but it's really hard to tour in Europe, and it's still hard. I mean, we have some kind of success with Monolord, but the touring career we have in the US is far exceeds the one in Europe. And it's kind of weird, and it's an ongoing discussion amongst many people why that is. A constant question we get is, why are there so many bands from Sweden, and you must tour Sweden all the time? And we always say we never tour Sweden because you can't tour Sweden. It's not possible. I mean, we have 3 cities that are considered big here, but it's like small villages compared to the US cities. It's nothing. So you can play like a long weekend in Sweden, and that's it. if you're a small band, and we're considered a small band in this context. So yeah, it's really hard to tour here. I'm not complaining. I'm just stating the fact. I mean, we have the luxury of playing excellent venues in Europe, and we will on the next run as well. But there is a difference. There's a difference in show culture and the way you work as a band. And I had this discussion with, do you know the guy Alexi from Scorched Tundra in Chicago? Never mind. I do not. Great guy. He was here in Gothenburg about a month ago. He has a podcast as well, and he recorded 2 episodes in my studio. And we talked about this, the difference in it seems like in Europe, you don't really tour unless or until you're an established band with a proper label and you're kind of already known. Then you start touring. Then you're allowed to tour. That's kind of the collective mindset. As in the US, it seems like, at least from my perspective, that it's the exact opposite. It's like you get a band and then you tour until you get some kind of recognition. You just get a band going and you buy a van and you just tour and you live in the van, and that culture really doesn't exist in Europe at all. So that's kind of an interesting culture clash. But that's a side note. But yeah, it's part of the answer.
Yeah, there's been a ongoing conversation on this podcast with with touring bands and musicians and over the years about the differences between touring in Europe and touring in the United States. And it's interesting hearing your take on that from the European side. To speak a little bit about what you were saying about in America, like that culture of like you just buy a van and start touring. Like, yeah, I think a lot of that can be traced back to the to the early like 80s hardcore punk scene bands like Black Flag that were just like perpetually on tour, and they made themselves what they were by just never relenting. And just, it was like, you could expect to see Black Flag twice a year at least in the 80s. You know what I mean? I was very lucky that I got to see them a few times in one of their later formations, kind of the My War and stuff like that. But it was like, and then, a band like the Melvins came along a little bit after that, and it was like you could expect to see the Melvins 3 times a year in Los Angeles for 20 years. You know what I mean? And it's like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it is totally crazy. But I think one of the differences that I noticed between touring the States and touring in Europe was how bands are treated. Like in the States, if you are not a headlining band that is in like 1,000 person, 500 person, venue, you're not getting anything. You're probably not going to get paid. Maybe you can get gas money. There's going to be no food for you. There's going to be no nothing. And in Europe, you can be playing the smallest, basement, and you're going to get a place to sleep, and you're going to get fed, and you're going to get money to get where you need to go. And the culture, that cultural difference is like very different for sure.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. That's a big difference. It is. Might also be part of the reason why you don't just go tour, because they want to book something they know has some kind of draw that just don't book anyone that just started anything. So yeah, there is a different. That's not true for all of Europe though, because UK is known for being kind of the opposite to that. It's kind of the same culture as in the US. It's like play there and then leave. Mind your own business, like basically. And
which is weird.
Super kind people there, arranging super great shows, and the promoters are almost always great. So it's not on the promoters; it's more the live culture as such. So the venue owners sometimes it's almost as you feel like you're in the way. It's kind of, sorry, I thought this is our show tonight, but yeah, hey. But I agree. Mainly in Europe, there is a difference with that. Going to the Netherlands, it's insane.
Yeah,
you can play the absolute smallest venue, and it's crazy. Everything is so professional. It's such a high level on everything. In-house catering, everything. It's amazing.
Yeah, I noticed that the places we were played in Germany were the same way. It was like, oh, whoa, this is crazy. Like, oh, we're going to get dinner and breakfast.
Yeah.
And a shower. Oh, okay. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
In the United States, like, if you don't rent a hotel to get a shower, you might not shower for a fucking week,
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. When was the first time you guys came to the States to tour?
I should know this, but I suck at dates and years. I really do. I do remember it very well, though. It was with supporting or opening for first band of 3 with Windhand, and then first us, then Danava, and then Windhand. I just gotta Google it really quick, but because I'm curious. But that was crazy intense, because the visa process, which is kind of that's a podcast episode on itself.
Yes, yeah, I understand.
and we got the visa just in time to get the plane tickets. It's like, we're not getting this visa. It's not happening. Oh, it did happen. Yes. And then we got the plane tickets, flew over, and someone picked us up at the airport. And after 3 hours at immigration, and who are you and why? And we got through, and then straight to the venue and the sound check. And just jet lagged out of our minds, did the show. I was just like, it was okay, we're here finally. Nice, let's go. So that was a crazy start to a really good tour. Let's see, when was that? Windhand.
I love Windhand. Windhand is so good.
I do too. Yeah, and so nice people. It was a pleasure touring with them.
Yeah, we covered that. Everybody's always so nice.
Yeah, but it's true. It's got to be said. I mean, makes a difference when you're on the road.
Oh yeah, it does. You kind of you kind of spoke a little bit about just like how many good bands there are in Sweden, and I was talking with Matt Harvey from Exhumed, and we were talking a little bit about why that might be, and it seems to, because it's like it doesn't matter the genre of music. It seems like you guys kind of got all the genres covered with at least one or two really, really like legendary bands. It's kind of crazy. Like, what do you suppose creates so much good music out of your country?
I don't know. I mean, it's a constant question and discussion, but I don't think there's one single factor. I think one of many factors might be that it's fairly easy to get a rehearsal space cheap here. So if you want to start a band, you get a place where you can rehearse, and often you can also just borrow backline. You don't have to own your instruments. And also you can get the lessons really early on. That's included in elementary school, which is another factor. So music is kind of part of your school life early on. And if you want to start a band, it's the logistics of starting a band here is quite easy, or has been at least, which makes a difference. And then I personally also think that there is a difference or it makes a difference to see someone else succeed from where you live. I mean, if another band from the city I live in succeed in a genre or in a style I like, that boosts my confidence, of course. And I think that's part of it as well. See so many Swedish artists from this tiny country in the northern Europe just going all over the place in the world and working with these huge artists. I think to boost the confidence of the community. I don't know this, but I think that's a part of it. But yeah,
there seemed to be also a little bit of like, if a band has some success outside of Sweden, all of Sweden kind of appreciates that. It elevates it elevates the country's profile a little bit. I think is what I understand a little bit talking to people. Is like
in some genres, for some level of artists, yes, but there is also this misconception that you get free money to tour from the state. That's not the case. You can apply for grants all over the place, but that's not that easy, and it's a really tedious process. We have never done that, as an example, at all. We've always been self-sufficient in what we've been doing, but maybe I haven't. We get we as I said, we often get the question about Sweden, coming from Sweden and being successful in the little niche we are in. But I don't feel particularly Swedish in that sense. I don't feel that I come from this Swedish context with the Swedish community.
Right.
I mean, our community is online.
Nowadays, every band's community is online. That's the weird world we live in, which is great. I think it's great. Like, it used to be, you made a demo tape and you got it into the tape trading, ocean, and hoped that it got out. And now it's like, you know, you don't need anything anymore. Like, you know, the DIY spirit of the 80s and 90s, where it was like, you know, you could press your own records, you could put on your own shows, and all this stuff was super important to getting like underground and extreme music out into the world. But nowadays with the internet, like, yeah, it's even more DIY. Like you don't need a pressing plant. You don't need anything. You can have successful music without ever pressing anything or releasing anything in a physical form. It's crazy. I think it's cool though. I think it puts more good music in the hands of the people who want it. I think that if there's a downside, it's that unfortunately bands that maybe ought to not be having their music as accessible, you know, it's like you end up with a bunch of stuff that's like, you know, SoundCloud rappers that just aren't that good. And you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah, but I mean, they won't be long lived either, I guess. So I mean, it filters itself out eventually. But I agree. I love it as well. I think it's great. Take us in Monolord. We wouldn't have had the success we were having if it weren't for the online community at all. We're completely based on that. We wouldn't have come to the US if it didn't exist. So yeah, it's and we're still very much present there. That's our community when we're not physically on stage. Yeah, I love it, and I discover a lot of music that way. Still, it's it's streaming services. Spotify can go fuck themselves, and I use it all the time. So it's
100% how I feel about it.
Yeah,
Spotify can go fuck itself, but at the same time, that's the only place I listen to music.
Yeah, exactly.
It sucks. It sucks so bad.
It sucks.
But you know, it's the same thing as like, you know, fuck Amazon, and that's where I watch most of my, you know, movies and TV now. And it's like,
yeah.
And you know, like it's a weird world. It's a weird world where you have way more options, but you have way fewer options at the same time. It's
I agree. Well put. I agree.
It's like to have been alive at a time when, you know, I had 3 TV channels available to me, and, you know, the telephone hung on the wall and had a dial on it, to, you know, like endless opportunities of things to watch. And, you know, I have like, you know, every single device, like every electronic device you had in your house in the 80s and 90s, your VCR, your telephone, your cable, your VCR, like everything is now in your pocket, you know? And it's like, it's all one device now. And that is, it's bizarre.
It is bizarre. It really is.
It's so weird.
I'm thinking, I agree. And maybe that's one of the reasons so many people want to go see live shows, I guess, still, because you see the thing in the flesh, and you stand there, and it's sweaty and humid, and the noise is real, and you're there, and there are humans around you. I love it myself. It never gets old going to a show, and it never gets old playing a show. And that might be for that reason, the kind of connection, I guess. I don't know, but part of it.
No, for sure it is. There's nothing that in all of human life that compares to seeing live music. I don't care what kind of music it is. No matter what kind of music you're a fan of, whether it's country music or whatever, like there's just nothing like being in a space with other people who want to be in that same space to appreciate the same thing. And there's that energy of the entire crowd.
Exactly.
And whether you're on the stage performing and absorbing that energy, or whether you're part of the crowd and you're giving that energy, there's nothing like it. And it, you know, it's a testament to the fact that music has been such a huge part of human existence, you know, kind of since the very beginning. And, you know, like going all the way back to like, you know, Mozart and all of that, like, you know, musicians are held in the highest regard in society most of the time, no matter what kind of music they play, you know? And it's like, I think that what you say is absolutely true. There's the connection of live music is, you know, I think it's essential.
Yeah, essential is the word. I agree.
Yeah, we didn't realize how much we missed going out and seeing music until we went to Psycho last month. And it was like, we were like model citizens during the pandemic. We didn't go anywhere. We did not take any, we stayed at home. We, cooked our meals at home. We didn't do anything like for a year and a half. And it was like, I had no idea how much I missed being in a room with a live band. Like I was like, oh, that's right. That's why I made my entire life about this.
Yeah. Yeah. This is it.
Totally, man. Totally.
Yeah, I miss it. I miss it so much. Can't wait to go to a show. It's going to be so good.
One of the things I wanted to ask you that I forgot when we were talking about the recording studio, are you going to record other bands, or is it primarily just for Monolord stuff, or are you?
No, absolutely. Anyone's welcome, for sure. So the structure is that I took over the studio that it hasn't been that active. It had its heyday, its peak in mid-90s. And the guy that owned it was retiring and was looking for someone to breathe new life into it, basically. And I felt like this is the perfect time. It's crazy bad timing at the same time in the middle of pandemic and no work and no money and hey, want to buy this expensive studio? But I felt like, yeah, now is the time actually. And we've been looking for a space at the same time with the band. So I run the studio, and in the big recording room, the band company rents a space from me. So that's the structure of it. So that's our working grotto at the moment. So we have a great studio to rehearse in and to have our office in. So that's how it works now. But yeah, it's absolutely a recording studio for anyone that want to come.
You haven't recorded anybody yet, though?
No, because of the pandemic. So it's been mostly online work, mixing and mastering work.
Yeah.
But hopefully,
yeah. I mean, every musician friend I talk to and every, band or musician I have on this show, like, they recorded they wrote 2 albums worth of material over the last 2 years. So I'm guessing before too long, you're going to be busy.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I've been seeing online. But, hey, we have this album. Want to mix it? Want to master it? But people are busy. I did record one band. Actually, I did. Yeah. I did a live recording with a local band called Warhawk, kind of 70s Motorhead style.
Oh, nice.
Just because I wanted to try out and make a live video in the space. It's really cozy space. It's super cozy. It's kind of intimate and I wanted to try that out. So that's one of the few times I've had actual humans in there. It was nice.
Did you find that the recording process for this new Monolord record was quicker, or do you think you took longer because you were in your own space?
It took longer because we could, yes, but it felt quicker because there were no pressure. That's how I felt about it and feel about it. It was more. There wasn't the pressure. Basically, that's the best way to summarize the whole feeling, the whole process of it. We could rehearse more. We could spend all those 4 weeks of recording just to get everything the way we wanted it. So we decided for the 4 weeks because we knew that we would be finished probably before that, but then we'd have the margin to just have extra long coffee breaks and all that. And that actually made such a difference. It was like usual working hours, working Monday to Friday, having the weekends off. It was pure luxury. So it took longer. Yeah, it did. But it felt so easy.
That's gotta love that. Because, I'm certain that that'll come out in the actual songs and quality of the recording. And
I hope it does. It feels like it did.
From the first single, it's definitely there. Like the first single is really good. The cover, the digital cover for the single, is that related to the final album art, or is that just the single with the little rabbit?
No, that's the final album art. Okay. And the process of that was kind of the same process we always go through with the band, because we're very different as people, the three of us. And Monolord is kind of the little spot where our three circles overlap. That's the band.
That always makes the best bands, though.
Yeah,
that always makes the best bands.
I hope. And it goes for everything, as with artwork as well. So finding artwork is that's a chaotic process for us. But when we finally find something we all like, we usually just go with it. And often it doesn't mean the same thing for all of us. We just all like it. It represents something for us that we recognize in the album, but from three different perspectives. And same thing with this one. We found this. Actually, Thomas, I think, suggested this from a guy we all follow on Instagram. I think Sin Eater, and he doesn't make this stuff at all usually. But he posted this photo and was like, "It, yeah, I like it, but does it fit?" And it just grew on us. And it was like, "Yeah, it fits perfectly. It's just right." And we reached out to him, and he allowed us to use this as an album cover. So yeah, that's awesome. The story of that one.
Yeah, I think I'm an artist, so I see things how I see them, and not in any special way. It's just the association of the title "Time to Shine," the concept of you guys talking to a future generation and being like, "Sorry, we fucked all this up," and then and then just with that photo of the rabbit surrounded by the flowers, I think it all ties together really well. I think it like I was saying about the Rust album cover, is it's like your guys' artwork is usually very different than a lot of like the kind of stoner doom stuff, and
Thank you.
I think that this carries on with that same theme of that, and I think it feels like it has a deeper connection to all of the things involved, the title, the album art, and the music. So I think that you guys were successful in that way for sure.
Happy to hear that. Thank you so much.
Just my opinion, but
yeah, but that's what we aim at. Absolutely.
Yeah. On the first Relapse record, I'm sorry, I No Comfort. Was that like a similar process for the cover with the owl? It's an owl, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an owl.
Yeah.
With the
lighting
out of its back. Yeah, exactly. It was the same process. Yes, it was. But that was kind of when we found that one. I remember it as we instantly, all three of us, yeah, that's it. That's the one. That is the one. It felt like it looks like what the album sounds like. So it's just the perfect fit. But I think you'll get three different versions of what that means.
Good. For us. Should be like that.
Yeah, I think so too. Absolutely. I love that artwork. I think it's great.
Is that another thing that you found that was already created, or did you have it made for you, or?
That was already created, I think. If I don't, that was already created. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like you look at the covers for all your guys' records, and they're all very different. They're very different from the Empress Rising to How do you pronounce the 2015 record? Vanier. Yeah, that one's even more different.
Yeah,
I like it. I like when bands do that. It's one thing to have a consistent look, like somebody like High on Fire, which is also very cool. But to be able to spread your wings a little and kind of do whatever you want, and to have set it up that way from the beginning, so you're never in a box. Again, not that there's anything wrong with that at all. You know what I mean? Like Discharge wouldn't be.
No, I know what you mean. Absolutely.
Without all those covers. But I do as an artist and an art director, I totally appreciate the fact that you guys have a different look, kind of similar but different kind of look to all of your album covers and stuff. And it's always cool. It's always cool when bands set it up early and just keep running with that.
No, thanks. Happy to hear that. I guess we're so scattered in a way that we need to do it that way, because I don't think we would find something that all three of us want to go with for now. From now on, it's just like I think we need to reinvent everything every time, and it can be extremely tedious. But at the same time, when we land this thing where we feel like, oh, this is it. We all three of us like this. We like the cover of this album, and we like all songs and all structures of all songs and all the lyrics. We like every aspect of it. When all three in the band have reached that point, it's amazing. That's a really good feeling.
Do you guys all write together, or is everybody just like bring the riffs they have and everything gets put together, or is it like a more of a let's sit down and write a song together type of thing?
No, it's usually Thomas that writes everything. He writes the bulk of everything, and we finalize it together. So we arrange and sometimes rearrange, and we find the voice for the songs, because the demos team makes this kind of demos with a basic beat and on a drum machine and some riffs and a vocal line. Really good demo. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But then we play it, and then it gets a new expression, of course. And then we mold it, and we try it, and we cut and paste a lot when we try stuff. And when we're finally satisfied, we make an album. So yeah,
that's awesome.
It's kind of the process.
It's always interesting to talk to different bands and hear how they create, because every band kind of does stuff differently. And I always, as a fan of music, I always love hearing how bands put stuff together like that. And I follow Thomas on Instagram, and I see him making his riffs and stuff, and it's like
he makes so music good all the time. It's crazy. It's a riff a day.
Yeah,
it's insane.
This morning I saw your little video of you playing on the mini drum set, and that made me laugh too. That was a good start to my morning.
Oh yeah. Perfect. That was the perfect coffee break for me. I was just like mentally stuck. Fuck, I gotta do something. Yeah, okay, that's it.
Perfect.
Cleanse the mind.
Perfect. That's awesome. All right, man. I'm going to let you go. I appreciate your time. I know it's evening time for you. You're probably trying to get on with your life. So I'll let you go. And I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your time. And hopefully all the touring stuff stays intact and you guys actually do make it to California, because I will absolutely be there to see you guys for sure.
Thanks. Looking forward to that. It's going to be great.
And your new record is called Time to Shine, and it is out on the 29th of October, correct? Like right before Halloween.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect time for a new stoner doom record.
It is. It's the perfect time.
All right, Esben, I will talk to you soon. Thank you very much. I'll send you guys an email with all the information about the episode and stuff like that.
Excellent.
Take care. Thank you, Esben. Bye.
Bye.